nice to have you here. Welcome to this beautiful sunshine today at the self-service box in Sentenberg with us. Feel free to stop by. So in the last videos, I was repeatedly surprised by community members and viewers, but not today. Today in the Berlin video, nothing has happened yet. But today we will start with a small comparison between two, or rather four, wheel brushes from two different brands. One's from ChemicalWorkz and one's from CarPRO. You see, here comes the next one driving up. Oh, so today is really busy, Yusen. Let's take a look at the wheel brush, because ChemicalWorkz has two variants and CarPRO has two variants as well. How do they differ? Which one would I recommend to you? We have already tested them individually, which means I have rated them as well. And right from the start, I can tell you that the ChemicalWorkz have placed a bit higher. This is also due to the various accessories, the dimensions and so on. Nevertheless, CarPRO has really brought two excellent wheel brushes to this competition and has managed to place them right at the top. So it's definitely not a case of good versus bad, with ChemicalWorkz being better than everything else. The CarPRO products are really very good, but I just want to show the comparison again, how the scoring came about, and simply provide a comparison so you can decide what you want to get as well, because I think the kit from CarPRO is really very good. Let's take a look now. I've already brought some wheel cleaner. Have fun, sit back, enjoy, and let's get started. In one of the recent videos, I tested the ADBL Vampire Light in Solo B, and I still have a bit left in here, so we will use that on the side. You can already see the competitors of the upcoming test here, but just to quickly spray the wheel again, I experimented a bit more, and I mentioned in the last video that the spray could be a little finer, but if you see here, I've gotten so used to it that it just goes extremely quickly, and I'm already done spraying. Well, I have to say it's not a huge disadvantage that it doesn't spray extremely fine. Even here in the rear area we can spray nicely. So it's working very well. And with that, you've covered the entire wheel. I think it's really cool. Feel free to check it out, give it a try, and now let's let it sit for a bit, and then we'll grab our wheel brush and compare them a little. So this has been allowed to sit nicely for 2.5 minutes. You can see from the discoloration that it is already running completely purple at the bottom. And now I'm doing a 2-in-1 trick. I'm rinsing it off with the pressure washer. Not with plain water, but with the shampoo mixed pressure washer. And then I'll fill a little bit into the wash bucket for the wheel brushes.
Well, I can already see that the wheel sealant hasn't been affected either. Everything is still great.
You now have all four models in direct comparison. So what we can definitely recognize is that the two main wheel brushes, let's start with those to bring a bit of structure to the topic. The two main wheel brushes are actually quite similar. Logically, they are wheel brushes. What significant differences can we expect here? They all have a similar style, they all have a handle, they all have a microfiber head for wheel brushes on top, and they are almost identical in length. I believe the CarPRO might be about 2 cm longer. I don't have the exact measurements in mind right now, but visually, when you hold them side by side, they could be the same. So there aren't any huge differences. In terms of style, both are made of plastic, and the CarPRO has a label, which the ChemicalWorkz does not. And the wheel brush has also developed a bit through my feedback, of course, with many other opinions as well. And I also believe that you don't really need this label on a long wheel brush, especially when the head is very long. You are practically quite far away from the wheel, so it's not really necessary. That's why I think I didn't include it in the evaluation. What's important here with the large version is that the label holds very well, as you also saw in the individual test. I prefer the handle of the ChemicalWorkz version a bit more with this small grip design here. It feels significantly more stable in the hand. This is the foam, and it can get a bit slippery when it's wet, especially if you have wet hands from washing or something like that. It's a bit better when it has a nice rubberized grip. Also here, the whole thing is a bit more high quality. The tab here is also a bit more comfortable than just this small round drilled or punched hole area. But overall, both are very soft in terms of the fibers. Now let's go back in here, and I have already mentioned from the beginning that it's not about saying that chemicals are better than CarPRO, but I just wanted to compare a bit for myself, especially in this area here in front, how well the wheel brushes fit into the gaps. And here you see the CarPRO, and that's why it ended up so high and received so many points, because it fits really nicely into these gaps. And here we have the brake caliper, the tightest spot on the front axle here, where you can even dance back and forth. But over here, let me get you right in front of it so you can see it even better.
Do you see here? It fits perfectly in between. Also, look here, we are getting a bit more dirt out. Now let's test it with the ChemicalWorkz. I find it to be a bit more stable as well. And I think a small difference that I almost forgot is that you can see here, it easily slips in between. It moves a bit better as well. So it's also a bit more compact here. Here and here, you really dance back and forth, so you have plenty of space. This is important for a wheel brush, especially for vehicles with larger brake systems that have limited space. However, I have now realized that it doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be such a sporty vehicle. There are also regular cars that have a brake wheel combination where you have very little space. So, not only for sports cars, but also in everyday use, you often have brake systems that provide very little space, and both wheel brushes are indeed very well suited for that. What I noticed about the CarPRO in terms of flexibility is that the ChemicalWorkz is definitely more flexible. You can really feel that when you press here. I really like that a lot, especially when you approach it a bit from the side. It adjusts nicely so that you don't have to focus on coming in from the front. Instead, you are practically standing in front of the wheel, and automatically you are a bit angled and it just glides in from the side. The CarPRO does this as well, but here you can notice that the resistance is somewhat broken by the handle here. You can see it here. This is the bending point, not up front. So it practically pushes itself back in straight because it bends the entire handle, and that's such a difference. That's why I wanted to compare this in the video for you and for myself. That's why I thought I'd take the camera with me. So here, the ChemicalWorkz does not do it over this rod, which is really super robust, but it does it where it is supposed to, and that is at the front of the head. You can see 1,000 here now. Maybe we can somehow do that again. Yes, you can see it here. The CarPRO flexes throughout its entire body, while the ChemicalWorkz only does so at the front of the head. So that is also the reason why it might have scored a bit higher. Both are really very, very nice flat wheel brushes. Both are very, very good for this purpose. Take a look at the dimensions, and then you'll find one of the two that fits your wheel. I believe the difference between the two is not that significant. And there you can choose the wheel brush that you prefer. The only significant difference between the two now is the attachment of the covers here. Here you have this little nose attached. You can see it on the other side, just the same. And it is held really nice and tight. And now we can test it here. And you see, it really goes very, very quickly. This means that if you get stuck somewhere and it's not really secured here, then you see here, it comes loose. I'm pulling here at the front, as I mentioned in the individual test. You need to pay attention to that. And that is also the reason why I say that it needs to be fixed properly. Because if you move it back and forth now, you can see here that it slips out relatively quickly once it gets really stuck. But if the position is different, then you can see here that the corners already slip out. This is a small point of criticism, also mentioned in the original video. But otherwise, if you pay attention to it 2001 and are a little careful, it will work well with that too. So, the comparison of the two main wheel brushes is complete. Now we come to the small details. And there are also variants from both, with clear differences. Look, I need to get a better picture first. Both, well, here the CarPRO is clearly longer. I already mentioned the thing with the sign. Someone also wrote in the comments that it is not the case for them, but for my model, it is really punched out too massively. It completely slides back and forth here, if it isn't the case with yours. For me, that's just how it is. We don't have a sign on the chemical box, but when you clean here like this, you can still see that I'm so far away from the rim. And the small wheel brush is for the details, and you can't reach the last little piece of the rim with it, because you do that with the large wheel brush. The small one is for the details, for very narrow areas, and it can't reach there either. So, no sign is needed here. The grip is exactly the same. The wheel brush head is significantly longer on the CarPRO. You can see it here. But in terms of width, look, the sign has slid completely forward again. The CarPRO fits really nicely in between here, but the narrow ChemicalWorkz is really super, super narrow. So both fit in the gaps here for me, but you can really feel it right at the edge. And here you really have a nice range of motion. So for rims with very, very narrow gaps, I think the ChemicalWorkz is a bit better suited. Again, here is the point about the small catch hooks. The small microfiber pad or cover does not slip off. With the CarPRO, it doesn't slip down either, because inside, as I showed you in the main video, there is a small hard rubber stopper or a wider area. You can see it here. You can see it. It holds it back well too, so here you don't have the problem. You just need to make sure that you apply it correctly. It's very important to apply it properly, then it will hold. So here both wheel brushes are clear. However, I find this whole thing too inflexible because the rod here is thinner and the wheel brush is very, very flexible. That means when you work here, it is often said that being flexible is good with these wheel brushes, but it also applies to the body here. This means that if you go into the gaps here, you won't bend the head at the front, but you'll bend the entire wheel brush. And that is almost a bit too much for me. 1,000 too flexible. Here, it doesn't look bad at all, but if you go in here, you can see how far you can bend it. Back and forth if you do it correctly. So if you really want to reach areas properly here, you need to make sure that you secure it in such a way that the wheel brush doesn't bend all the time. Well, that's also a small disadvantage, but we're talking about nuances here because you can still get into the gaps really well and clean the rim wonderfully with it. Just small details. Look, a small stone is coming out here. Look at this. Freshly paved road. It's even stuck to the fibers here. Look. So all 4 wheel brushes are definitely very, very good. And now you have an impression of what you need to pay attention to and how they differ from each other. I think you all have the information now. Yes, and I really enjoy comparing wheel brush tools directly and specifically. I believe you have now gotten a good impression what is important and what are the differences. Are the differences so extremely significant for me? One more difference I can mention is that it comes as a set with CarPRO, which means you always get both wheel brushes. I personally don't think it's very clever. I would have done it separately. That's my opinion. And the next point to consider is that you currently cannot get replacement covers from CarPRO. Maybe that will come later. I firmly believe they have to do this. They need to make these covers orange and also black. You still know the black ones. They are included as well. They should actually come again either individually or as a pack. And there is also the advantage on the side with ChemicalWorkz. So you see, I really pay attention to all the fine details. And if you have any questions about it, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I am now done here with this wonderful comparison of the 2 really beautiful tool sets. But one must consider that the ChemicalWorkz is also available individually, depending on which model you want. However, I believe that CarPRO might also follow suit to make it a bit more flexible. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the little comparison. I am having an endless amount of fun in such wonderful weather. Until then, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me via WhatsApp. I'm available anytime. Just send a message, include your picture, and then we can take a look at where the problems can be solved. Or if I should put something together for you, or if I should take another look at your order, at your shopping cart. Many people do that as well. Send me your wash set or your polish that I have built or any other set and I will take another look at it. Take advantage of this opportunity. The number is displayed. Until then, now we are done. I wish you a nice day. Sebastian, bye guys.